The hardest truth in the NFL. Legends rarely realize when the game has passed them by. Falling off doesn't mean you aren't a legend. It means the current version of you is costing your team wins, and we're starting where denial is always the loudest. Quarterback. Russ at his peak was the chaos quarterback. The play breaks down, the pocket gets muddy, and somehow he turns it into a 50-yard moonball down the sideline. Defenses had to respect the designed play, then survive the chaos once structure broke down. You'd rush him, but you couldn't lose lane integrity. That version of Russell Wilson made coordinators age in real time. Here's the problem. When your superpower is make it weird, the decline hits different, because once the weird stops working, you're left with the parts of quarterbacking you never had to live in. The on-schedule quick game, and the boring 5-yard completion on 2nd and 7. The first thing that went was pocket behavior. Old Seattle tape shows him sliding and climbing with purpose, then ripping the deep ball. Now, a clean pocket feels like a trap. He bails early, then drifts into drive-killing sacks because he's still hunting for the big play.
Quick favor, I'm on a mission to hit 1,000 subscribers before the NFL season kicks off. If you're enjoying this so far, hit that subscribe button and be part of the team before game day.
And passer rating doesn't punish you correctly for that. It misses the 3rd and 6 quick out you skip, then the sack that forces a punt. It misses red zone snaps where timing matters most, and he's late or spinning into pressure, so you're settling for 3. Defenses play him completely different now, and that's the loudest signal. There was a time when Russ's mobility forced strict contain rules. Edge rushers had to stay home, linebackers had to hesitate, safeties had to keep vision because he might pull it down. That respect is gone. Teams still rush with discipline because you never want to give up free scramble lanes, but they aren't scared. They sit on intermediate routes. They squeeze windows. They dare him to live in structure for 4 quarters. And if your whole identity is outside structure, that's a long afternoon. And the most telling part is this isn't a one-stop problem. People want to blame Denver's mess, and that first Broncos year was a disaster. 55 sacks, 15 games is loud. But when the same pattern shows up across stops, the league adjusts to the player, not the narrative. The sacks, the held ball, the bailing from clean looks, the offense that works in spurts, then stalls for entire quarters. That's the tape. You see it in how teams treat him, too. The career arc isn't franchise cornerstone anymore. It's temporary solution. By 2025 with the Giants, he was benched for Jackson Dart. Russ could have a second life as a veteran backup, mentor, spot starter. That lane exists, but it requires you to accept you're not the main event. Bottom line, Russell Wilson didn't become bad overnight. The magic just left, and without it, the job got exposed. The league's message is always the same. We're recruiting your replacement every single day. If Russell Wilson lost the improvisation that made him elite, Kirk Cousins is a different story, because Kirk was never selling you chaos. He was selling you structure. On-time throws and play-action rhythm, the kind of quarterbacking where stay on schedule and we'll score enough. And for a long stretch, he did exactly that. The problem is, when your game is built on being a clean pocket operator and your body stops cooperating, Cousins tore his Achilles in 2023. The margin gets razor thin the second you lose functional mobility, and 2024 made it obvious with a league-leading 16 interceptions. This is why Kirk is such a trap for front offices. The contract screams franchise quarterback, while the stat line looks like competence. The press conferences sound right. The mind is still there. The issue is the league doesn't care how well you can see it if you can't physically get to it. People love to argue mobility like it's a luxury. In today's NFL, you need functional movement to buy a half a second that keeps throws on time. Slide off the spot, climb, reset, and deliver. When a pocket guy loses even a half step, the offense starts to feel like it's running uphill. The base gets messy under pressure, the ball loses zip, the timing gets late, and the window shrinks. When the safe quarterback starts forcing throws he used to make comfortably. Week 13 against the Chargers, he threw 4 interceptions, including a pick 6, completely unraveling in a 17-13 loss, and Atlanta had no choice but to start looking over his shoulder. That game was the signal that the margin for error had evaporated. And defenses know exactly what to do with that. They don't have to treat Kirk like a guy who can punish them with his legs. They collapse the pocket with patience, squeeze the interior lanes, and force him into decisions from a shrinking box. You'll see teams sit on the hot throws, squat on the shallow routes, and basically dare him to throw the ball. Because if he holds it, the rush gets home. If he speeds it up, he's throwing into tight windows without the same drive. This is where the "it's just the line" argument dies. Every quarterback gets pressured. The difference is what you do with it. The elite movers turn pressure into wasted steps by the defense. The statues turn pressure into a punt. And with Cousins, you can feel the offense shifting into survival mode. More checkdowns, more conservative calls, because the staff knows one bad protection rep can blow up the whole drive. Atlanta is the case study for why the league quietly tells on itself. When a team gives a veteran real money, then immediately starts building contingency plans, that's your answer. Front offices don't do that when they believe you're the next 3 years. And for the people at home, system QB isn't an insult. Every QB is in a system. The real question is what happens when the system isn't clean. Cousins can still carve you up if everything is on script, but once you force him off script, he doesn't have the bailout plays anymore. He takes the hit, or he throws the risky ball. You're living in 2nd and 16. Cousins doesn't vanish tomorrow because the league always has a market for steady veterans, but the label changes. He becomes a bridge, and every ugly stretch turns into the same debate while the league drafts kids with live legs and cheap contracts. If quarterbacks can hide behind a box score for a while, pass catchers don't get that luxury because their whole job is separation. If you can't separate, you're either living on contested catches or you're living on scheme freebies. And those are rentals. Once the system shifts or the defense stops respecting you, the production falls off fast. That's why receiver decline feels sudden. One season you're a nightmare for defensive coordinators. The next, you're just a veteran running on reputation. Start with Cooper Kupp, because his peak was a cheat code. That Triple Crown year was dominance at every level. Option routes, timing routes, deep overs, red zone work, all of it. Defenses doubled him and he still got open because that burst at the top of routes was real. Now the game looks different. You see defenders squatting on his routes. They aren't terrified of the sudden acceleration anymore, so they play tighter and drive on breaks. That's where the he still gets targets argument falls apart. Targets aren't the same as stress. Kupp used to dictate coverage. Now he's getting managed, moved around, used on key downs, but he's not carrying the passing game for 4 quarters. And injuries are the silent villain here. The stuff that steals a half step adds up, and once that burst isn't reliable, the whole profile changes. Now slide over to Deebo Samuel, because his story is a different kind of warning. Deebo's peak wasn't built on winning like a pure route technician. Deebo was a weapon. He was basically a running back after the catch. The 49ers could motion him, hand it to him, throw him screens, put him in the backfield, and the defense had to declare what it was doing. If you're a linebacker and he's coming downhill, that's a business decision. If you're a corner and he catches it on the edge, you better duck. But the versatility tax is real. Those designed touches come with contact, and contact adds up. In 2021, he put up 14 total touchdowns and 18.2 yards per catch, production that came from being the centerpiece. When Deebo loses even a little tackle breaking and a little burst, the offense stops using him like a battering ram. The rush usage stops. The get him the ball and let him cook stuff turns into safer routes. And now he's closer to a possession receiver than a weekly game breaker. In Washington in 2025, he's averaging 10.1 yards per catch, nearly half his 2021 peak of 18.2 yards per catch. You still get some nice moments because he's tough and he's smart, but the defense isn't building the whole game around him anymore. And the team tells always show up first in the play design. Fewer gadget looks, fewer touches in space, more normal routes where you're hoping he wins on timing instead of violence. The film starts looking like a guy being fit into an offense instead of a guy the offense is built around. Then you've got DeAndre Hopkins, and this one is the cleanest example of reputation outliving the trait. Hopkins used to be a true WR1. Even when he wasn't separating like a burner, he separated with technique and strength. Now, the separation is gone in a way you can actually see. Against man coverage, he can't consistently win early in the route, and that's everything. Defenses don't have to give him cushion. They play tight, sit on the break point, and dare him to create late separation. And when you ask a veteran receiver to win late, you're really asking the quarterback to be perfect. So Hopkins shifts into a possession role. Contested catches, smart pacing, chain mover reps. It looks fine on a highlight when it works, but the stress he puts on a defense is different. Defensive decline is harder to spot in the box score. When a pass rusher stops collapsing pockets, when a linebacker can't close in space, when a corner loses a step in coverage, there's no passer rating to expose you. The fall-off shows up first in the subtleties. Pressure turns into almost pressure, and tackles happen a yard deeper than they used to. And the real alarm bell is when offenses stop treating you like a problem they have to avoid. Once they start hunting you, the respect is gone. Take Cam Hayward. For years, he was the Steelers' interior wrecking ball, the kind of guy who didn't just eat blocks, he collapsed pockets. Guards couldn't sit down on the bull rush, centers couldn't help fast enough, and quarterbacks felt him even when the sack didn't show up. That's what elite interior players do. They ruin platforms and force bad throws because the quarterback can't step into anything. But inside, the first step is everything. If the get-off is a tick slower, the lineman gets hands on you earlier. If he gets hands on you earlier, your power arrives late. If your power arrives late, the pocket doesn't dent, and once the pocket stays clean, you start making average quarterbacks look comfortable again. Hayward can still win with technique and veteran hands. You'll still see the grown man rep where he stacks a blocker, tosses him, and blows up a run. Fans love those plays because they feel like the old guy is still there. The league doesn't care about moments. It cares about down-to-down impact. When you're the engine, protections slide to you. When you're a respected starter, offenses take their chances, leave a guard one-on-one, and live with it. Now swing to Bobby Wagner, because this is the cleanest example of how tackles can lie to your face. Wagner's resume is first ballot, 10 Pro Bowls, the whole deal. The mind is still elite. He sees it and calls it out, lines everyone up, and he can still pile up tackle numbers because he's smart and he's around the action. But watch him in space now, especially in 2025 with the Commanders. The range isn't what it used to be. At 35 years old, the click and close is slower. He gets to landmarks a beat late, and in the NFL, a beat late is a first down. Quarterbacks know it too. They'll test him with checkdowns and crossers, anything that forces him to turn and run, and his pursuit angles and coverage recovery just aren't as clean. Prime Wagner erased mistakes. Current Wagner is more of a cleaner. He's making the tackle after the gain instead of preventing the gain. And here's the part that always gets people fired up. Teams keep these guys because they're leaders. The locker room listens, and the prep is elite. That stuff matters. It also doesn't stop a coordinator from circling your number on the call sheet. If an opponent sees a veteran whose body can't catch what his brain is asking for, they're going to hunt it. They'll run at you. They'll throw behind you. They'll force you into open field decisions over and over until the unit cracks. That's why defensive captain can quietly turn into a warning label. When leader turns into target, the end comes fast, even if the player doesn't want to admit it. The league will clap for your career on Thursday night, then spend Sunday trying to put you on a poster. And if you want the purest example of the league selling you the legend after the trait starts slipping, it's the kicker. A quarterback can hide inside play calling. A receiver can hide inside target share. A linebacker can hide inside tackle totals. A kicker can't hide anywhere. It's you, the snap, the hold, and then the ball either cuts through the uprights or it doesn't. That's what makes Justin Tucker's situation feel different. On the field, the film shows real decline. In 2025, he had the worst season of his career, and those automatic kicks started feeling like decisions. Tiny margins add up. The plant foot is a hair off, the contact point drops, and suddenly the confidence in the building changes. But the reason he's a free agent right now isn't just the leg, it's the off-field reality. Tucker was released while the league investigated allegations of improper conduct during massage sessions. Then the NFL handed him a 10-game suspension for violating the personal conduct policy. 16 massage therapists from 8 Baltimore area spas accused him of sexual misconduct, and he's denied wrongdoing. So now the legend brand doesn't carry the same weight. When the production is down, no team can justify the suspension timeline and the locker room distraction just to chase what Tucker used to be. The NFL doesn't reward loyalty, it rewards makes, and it avoids problems it doesn't need. Now there's the other kind of decline that hits different, the guys who can feel it too. They know the fastball isn't the same, and they're already halfway into the next chapter. Travis Kelce is the cleanest example. For a decade, he was the matchup that broke your weekly plan. Too quick for linebackers, too strong for safeties, and if you tried to bracket him, Patrick Mahomes would torch you somewhere else. That guy dictated coverage. He turned 3rd and 6 into a coin flip you usually lost. Now the role is changing. The volume can still look respectable because Kansas City will still feed him in big moments, but the tape is different. Less sudden separation at the top of routes, fewer yards after the catch where he drags guys for an extra 5. You see more of the veteran stuff, sit in the soft spot, win with leverage, move the chains, get down. And off the field, it feels like he's already building the runway. The media career that doesn't depend on option routes and ankle tackles. When a player starts looking that comfortable with life after football, that's usually the tell. He's still a smart, dependable target, but the days of him being the entire problem are fading. At the end of the day, the last thing to go is belief, and that's why these declines get so hard to watch. Drop a comment with the legend you think is next. Are you buying it or selling it? Subscribe to Extra Point Explanation, and we'll keep calling it like the tape shows.